Welcome back to Agents Confidential Podcast. Thank you for being here. I'm Eric.
And I'm Yana.
And today we'll be talking about overcoming objections. This can be a tough topic to talk about with agents or for agents to listen to, because I feel like there's kind of the old school of overcoming the objection just to get a sale. And then there's more of the new school of overcoming the objection to find out how you can actually help the client that you're working with.
Yeah.
So, overcoming objection isn't, what do I have to do to get you in this policy today? Right? That's an old school, almost used car salesperson's
A little slimy.
way of doing it. Like, no, I'm not comfortable. Well, what aren't you comfortable with? And, kind of that pressure to, or discounting that, others, everybody worries about that, but it's not a really big deal. So I want to talk about some positive ways that, this whole topic can be handled with agents that don't want to come off slimy, but really want to help their clients. And if that ends in a sale, then great. And if not, I'm sure most of our listeners are okay with that. They just want their client to be in a better position after meeting with them. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Excellent. So what are some common objections that agents hear? And I would love some feedback. I know you're just listening, but we do have
We have our confessional
button.
Yep. Yeah, there's going to be a link below if you have common objections that your clients or people who never turned into clients have, or whatever that is.
Prospects,
thank you.
or referrals. If you got a referral and it didn't become a client.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you're hearing, right?
Yeah.
So, some common objections that I've heard. My pet peeve is I'm all set. I've approached somebody like, hi, I'm Eric. And they just go, I'm all set. And you're just like, all set with what? You don't even know what I was going to say. I was just going to offer you a free $100 bill. What do you mean? They're just turned off. And we've all been in that scenario. Last year around Thanksgiving, we were in New York for the Thanksgiving Day parade. Two of my sons played in the band. And walking around New York, Vegas, any big city, you're like, not being there a lot, of kind of on guard of people trying to, street vendors and different things trying to get your attention. And you're just like looking ahead. I'm all set. I'm not interested. Like just trying to get through the
Don't make eye contact.
Sea of offers, right? Well, hopefully you're not working with your clients in that type of scenario where you have, 15 agents trying to talk to a client all at once. But I'm all set. Having a couple key phrases of, I've heard that before, but I found out later because I didn't ask a couple more questions that they actually realized they weren't, or they were questioning if they were all set or not.
Yeah.
Sometimes asking permission to ask a question is overkill, where you just ask the question.
Yeah.
Explain that to me. I understand you're saying you're all set, but what does that mean?
Yeah.
Like you just don't, and if they don't know, maybe you need to fill it in. Like, you don't want to make any decisions today. Yes, that's what I'm saying. Okay, great. Or I don't like you. I've heard that one a lot. I don't want to talk to you. I need to think about it, right? Or I don't have time to meet, and different things. And really figuring out, why were you introduced to that person, putting yourself in their shoes. If somebody was coming to me in this scenario, would I be receptive to what they had to say, right? Hopefully if you had an appointment and you did a scope.
Coming from a trusted friend, like my friend recommended I work with you, that kind of thing. Hopefully that's where this is coming from.
And sometimes they may not know why you're reaching out to them, right?
Yeah.
My friend referred me, that's great, but they couldn't really explain what you did or why we're meeting, but I'm taking this meeting because my friend asked me to.
Yeah.
What are we talking about here? I think role-playing objections and scenarios with people, you can role-play them with yourself, your spouse, your kids, your friends, your neighbors, us.
Yeah.
I can tell people no all day long. Let's practice.
Anticipating those objections can help you stay calm and stay confident when they're actually presented to you in real life. So that role playing can prevent feeling off guard.
Or do you feel when you get an objection or a question or any sense of that maybe they don't want to work with you, do you feel like rejected a little bit? Like they're not rejecting you.
Yeah.
They're not agreeing with moving forward or the concept or what have you. And I think that's almost like if you, a lot of people look at the weather, they have an app. And if there's a 50% chance of rain that day, are you really surprised when it rains?
Right.
You're not. You're not surprised. I think preparing yourself to be given objections is half the battle of saying, we think it's the greatest, it's what we do. We think it's the greatest thing. I put this plan together for you. Of course they're going to go for it. This is the greatest thing ever. Be prepared that they're going to have questions and or objections. So you're ready. Say, oh yeah. One of my favorites is feel, felt, found. Are you familiar with that one? So when you hear an objection, 3 steps. So you can say simply, I understand how you feel. Others have felt that way before. But what they've found after going through our process is that whatever your value proposition is, they found that I was able to help them really understand what they needed. I got them the right things. They weren't overinsured. They weren't underinsured. Whatever that found is for you and what you're trying to do, it's super easy to let them know they're not the first person you've ever talked to about this.
Yeah.
No one wants to be the guinea pig.
Right.
I understand how you feel. Others have felt that way. What they've found is X. One important thing to remember when you've given an objection, okay, is there's some common types of objections. And we should be anticipating this and preparing to hear them so we're not surprised. But people will object to price and or budget concerns. Money is generally a part of the decision-making process. Timing and urgency issues. Our urgency is not their urgency. Our needing to make an income and figure this out today may not be their reality. Uncertainty about the product or service and the benefits. If you're presenting a carrier that they've never heard of, that is going to give them some reason for concern.
Totally.
So hopefully they trust you. Do they trust this company?
Yeah.
Just because you do. Satisfaction with their current provider or solution. That kind of goes back to the I'm all set. I like what I have. It's worked. Some people put their head in the sand. Yeah. We figured that out when I turned 65 and haven't looked at it since.
Yep.
It ain't broke, don't fix it. And some people just have risk aversion or fear of change. I order the same darn coffee every time I go. I know I like it. If it's hot out, I get it iced. If it's cold out, I get it warm. But it's always the same darn thing.
And they might already just really like their agent.
Yeah.
And that's okay too.
Yana, that's a great point. If they have a great person that's helped with what you want to help them with, don't try to break up that relationship or question it.
Yeah.
Position yourself as a backup.
Absolutely. Yep.
Saying, that's great. I have a best friend, but I also have other friends. And if that best friend isn't available to help me with that or to help you with that, then I'm hoping I could be another friend.
Yeah. Or you can say something along the lines of, well, if anything ever changes, just let me know. If I'm also licensed in some other states. So if you find yourself moving, whatever that is, but don't try to break those good relationships up. Just offer yourself up as another potential solution if they decide that they need it.
Positioning yourself as if I ever come across something that I think is useful, would it be okay to send it to you? Would it be okay if I tried to add value to your life?
Yeah.
Even if we're not working together? Most people are not going to say no to that.
Right.
I want to talk a little bit about active listening. And I think we're going to do another segment on this, but the importance of listening carefully and understanding the true objection.
Well, I think what's interesting about insurance is you really do have to understand what's important to the person. Understanding, oh, this person is willing to take more of a risk. So we can try something different. Or maybe this person only cares about max out of pocket. So it makes it really simple for me. All I need to look at is the lowest max out of pocket for them, and that's the plan that they want. They don't care the monthly premium. Some people care more about the monthly premium, what's actually coming out of their paycheck every month. So the importance of actively listening to what is important to the client or to the prospect is so important. It's going to shape and save so much time. It's going to shape your conversation you have, and you can potentially avoid objections altogether if you understand what they actually care about.
In the first place, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting how they say like that premium's too high, right? I think most people would say like, well, your net overall cost for the year is like that number is probably going to be the most important if they can, afford it or not. And then going through, well, with your situation, Mr. and Mrs. prospect client saying, well, yeah, there is a premium on this plan, but it makes the drug costs that you're on so much lower,
Right?
because you get into this formulary that at the end of the year, this plan, even though there's a higher premium than the other one's, really going to save you X amount of dollars. Because that's what they're really trying to do. Most people in general is saving overall cost and saying, well, I don't want that plan just because it's a high specialist fee. If everything's lower.
Yeah.
Saw a great video last night. Five Guys burgers.
Yeah.
Have you been? You love it?
It's great.
$10 hamburger.
Yeah.
In a place that looks like a McDonald's. The shakes are really expensive, but everything else is a very low cost. You can have as many toppings as you want.
And they give you so many fries.
They give you so many. The fries aren't expensive, and they give you more.
Yeah.
Free peanuts, right? And honestly, I think it's a fantastic sandwich. But like presenting it to Dad, if you're listening, presenting a $10 burger to my father would say, no, I'm not going there. Or I've had a similar objection for somebody going to like a Ruth's Chris or a Chop House. They look at the menu and see it's $65 for a steak. Say, I would never pay that much for a steak.
Yeah.
And I ask, have you had one? They say, well, no. I say, well, then you don't know if it's worth it or not. So Yana, if you hear an objection, what's another important step?
Another important step that you can implement is paraphrasing and clarifying questions to show that you understand what they're saying.
If I say, I don't like that carrier.
Then you can say something like, you know what, I understand that you don't like that carrier, but I've seen them help other clients in a similar situation for XYZ, and this is why.
When you hear somebody say, I don't like that carrier, you can say, I hear you. I'd like to better understand that. What happened? Tell me the story. Why don't you like that carrier? Because no one's born not liking a certain thing or another. They have obviously had some experience or somebody they know or somebody told them a story and they have put together in their head they don't like X. I know people that will not buy a certain car brand because they had a bad experience 30 years ago.
Or their friend did.
Or their friend did. Or, that claim, my great-grandmother's toenail claim was never paid, right? And it's silly. Sometimes there's long-term effects of why we do things and why we don't. So here's a little story. This young couple is preparing to host their first Thanksgiving. And the husband's like, how can I help? Wife says, cut 2 inches off of the ham and then put it in the pan and put it in the oven. And he's like, why am I cutting 2 inches off this ham? And she said, that's how my mom always did it. So he cuts the 2 inches off and puts it in the oven. And the guests come and everything's cooking and, they sit down to have this beautiful meal. And the husband's still kind of questioning, like, why did she cut that off? He couldn't get it out of his head. So he asked his mother-in-law, hey, my wife was telling me we're prepping dinner and said, cut 2 inches off the ham because you always did that. Why did you always do that? And she goes, well, that's what my mom always did. So thankfully, Grandma was there and he looked over and he said, Grandma, why did you always cut 2 inches off the ham before you cooked it? And she said, so it'd fit in the pan. She had a small pan back in the day, so she had to cut it off. And the pans her daughter and the granddaughter now have are plenty big enough for the entire ham to fit in.
Mm-hmm.
But because that has been a tradition in the family for absolutely
Space saving issue.
yeah, well, no reason other than to fit it in there.
Yeah.
And think about all the things that may come up that we do because it's been a learned thing.
Mm-hmm.
Something interesting to think about maybe beyond this podcast even of what are you doing in your life because you've seen that or just because you've done it all the time that is maybe holding you back from the goals that you're trying to achieve.
Yeah. That was a good little side quest. Okay, so an example for asking clarifying questions, maybe your client objection is, I've been with my current provider for years and I'm happy with them.
They've done a good job by me, right?
Yep, great. Your clarifying question can be, what do you like most about your current provider? And understanding that is going to help me see if this plan can offer something similar or additional value to you.
Mm.
Another client objection could be, I don't think I need all these extra benefits. And then you can ask a clarifying question, which benefits do you feel are necessary and which ones are most important to you?
Nice.
Yeah.
Because then you can compare what's the most important and get as many of those, and
You
say,
can clarify just so that everyone can make a decision faster and save some time, potentially reduce additional objections that they have. I have one more that I want to quick throw in there, and it's, I've heard switching plans can be a hassle.
ooh,
Your clarifying question can be, what specific concerns do you have about the switching process? I can walk you through how we make it as smooth as possible.
nice.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
helpful.
empathizing, asking open-ended questions, giving some examples, reframing the objection. So if I'm hearing you right, this is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Coming up with other alternatives. And, an old sales technique is a trial close, right? Ask a small affirmating question to gauge whether the objection is truly resolved or not. Now that
Right.
that I've answered that question and that it, giving you that clarity, are you okay moving forward with this?
Right. The active listening and making sure that you're engaging actively with your clients, it just helps to build rapport and make your client feel heard. It also provides you with the information that's needed to present a solution that's tailored to their specific and unique situation.
Nice. I had a follow-up on the scenario of not wanting to change or being worried about change. I think you should tee up your clients for a potential of an annual change based on the marketplace.
Yeah.
And you can compare, again, I like to compare to other industries and saying, let's say you're working with your financial advisor and you've been in Vanguard funds forever and they say, we need to get out of that because we see trouble ahead or there's a better return. And you say, no, we're going to stay with this. It's been doing really good against their advice. And then the investment goes way down. Whose responsibility is that? It was the client's.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want to take the advice of that. And I think sometimes, whether it's a sales technique or just really understanding what it is, there's a great story that I heard from a life insurance agent where after he explained everything to the client agreed, yes, I want to protect, yes, I want to do all these things, that he was like, but I'm not going to sign the application. The agent handed him a card of one of his competitors and said, I obviously haven't done a good enough job explaining this to you, and that this has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with you. You need this coverage today. Call my colleague who we don't work together. I'll be losing this business, but I'm okay doing that because it's more important that you have it than if I ever get paid any money for you doing it. And he said he's never been able to leave, that the client has always moved forward. Now, use that how you will. Again,
That's a really interesting technique.
Well, I think, and it's fascinating because, other agents have told me after helping their people, they say, what do I owe you?
Right. So how much do I pay?
Yeah,
How do I pay you?
Who do I make the check out to for you helping me? Is it the agency? Is it to you directly? And we're like, well, no, you don't owe us anything. Or they think, oh, if we add this rider and this thing, they're just trying to make more money off of me. When in reality, you can position it as saying, I don't want my clients overinsured.
Yeah.
But I certainly don't want them underinsured.
Yeah.
They're relying on me to find what will protect them from what they want to be protected against and can afford to protect against.
Yeah.
And in some cases, they can't afford not to protect themselves in the grand scheme of things. So definitely a lot to consider.
Yeah. We have outlined here some specific objections and how you can handle them. So we're just going to rapid fire go through those. And so this first objection being price, you can emphasize value, you can emphasize the ROI, and also maybe different payment options. Timing, if their objection is timing, focus on the urgency or benefits of acting now. Satisfaction with current provider, I know that we went through that a little bit more, but
I think big one on satisfaction with their current provider is just teeing yourself up to be that reliever or that additional option. Maybe it's a great time to, well, you have to be careful with the scope, let's say, but it's a great time to follow up with additional services that you provide if you provide them.
Yeah, and highlighting those unique advantages or improvements for if they have satisfaction with their current provider. Risk, if that is the objection that you're facing.
There's risks in everything.
Yeah.
A lot of insurance companies will put out guarantees. Some people will say, well, what if that insurance company goes out of business? Typically, another insurance company is buying them and taking on those claims. So that's a tough one. Just like, what if a meteor hits the earth tomorrow? Then nothing matters. So
yeah. And if your client says, I don't need this, reconnect with the pain points and show how your solution addresses them.
Turning objections into opportunities can be a challenge, but there are definitely times when the conversation changes from one road that you've been kind of guiding your client down to a whole nother road that you didn't even know that client was interested in, and asking additional questions. Let's say that it's a price thing or a money thing, and they're saying, no, I can't afford this because all my money's tied up in X. Well, they have money. It's just tied up in a vehicle. And I'm saying a vehicle like an investment, a property, what have you. It's saying all my money's tied up in crypto. I don't know where their money's tied up, but maybe asking a few more questions down that road that their money's tied up may lead to an opportunity to find the money for something that they want, not just because you want to sell it to them.
Objections can offer you clues about the client's priorities, their preferences, their fears. By listening carefully, you can uncover some unmet needs and misconceptions that they need addressing.
So let's say your client says, well, I can't afford that. Let's say it was a hospital indemnity addition to a free MAPD. And you could just say, oh, I wasn't aware what's going on. Well, I have to pay for my 30-year-old son's medical bills and different things like that because he's not working and doesn't have health insurance. So maybe it opens up an ACA conversation with a different person in that household or in that family, another opportunity that you could help somebody so that she or your client wouldn't have to foot the bill for that and would have the money to do what you're asking them to do.
That would also help them.
Yeah, no, it's help all the way around.
Yeah, absolutely. Objections are often seen as roadblocks, but successful agents can also view them as valuable opportunities to deepen their understanding of their clients and also demonstrate their own expertise and ultimately provide greater value to the client. So when handled thoughtfully, objections can transform a hesitant prospect into a loyal client. By reframing objections as opportunities to learn, improve, and provide value, you can transform what may have initially seemed like a barrier into a key driver of growth, trust, and ultimately long-term success with a client.
Well said. Well said. Let's wrap this one up.
Yeah, let's do it.
So today we talked about overcoming objections. I think one of the biggest things is really understanding and clarifying that objection. Going 2-3 more questions deep on really trying to figure that out and understanding, or saying, okay, if that changed or went away, then you'd be ready to move forward. Well, no, there's more objections, right, that you have to handle. So finding out what those are, and really, I don't know if we said it earlier, empathize.
Yeah.
Acknowledge that you hear them and that it's not silly. Their concern or hesitancy is theirs and they're owning it.
And getting into that deeper level of trust with your client, understanding where they're coming from, empathizing with them, and ultimately making them feel seen and heard in their fears, because they typically are deeper fears. You can build so much more trust. So it really is a great opportunity to build that trust with people.
Ask open-ended questions, provide evidence or examples, use feel, felt, found like we talked about earlier, reframing the objection, offering any alternatives, and then bringing it back to, okay, we've answered that. Can we move forward now, or do we need to talk about this point further?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we hope this helps you overcome objections and really clarify that objection for your clients, so you can continue to grow your practice. We thank you so much, as always, for tuning in.
If we said anything that you are going to apply, or maybe a light bulb went on in your head or something like that, then we'd love for you to like this episode, share it with a friend, and subscribe for more.